The first man began dying at 2:13 inches the morning. Claire Bennett knew that because the digital clock above Trauma Bay 3 flickered from 2:12 to 2:13 just as the patient's heart monitor erupted into a violent alarm. He had arrived conscious, 48 years old, expensive charcoal suit, no identification, no visible injuries. His private driver claimed he had collapsed in the back seat of a town car outside a hotel in Back Bay. Now his body arched against the hospital bed, as if an invisible wire had pulled through his spine. "Pressure's dropping," Claire said. The resident beside her froze. Claire did not. She pulled open the man's left eyelid and saw the pupil shrink to a pinprick beneath the white emergency lights. Not opioids. His muscles were rigid, skin damp, breathing shallow. There was a faint bitter scent on his clothes, almost like crushed almonds beneath expensive cologne. "Get toxicology down here," she ordered, "and call Dr. Shah." The resident blinked. He was at a gala. It could be cocaine or... "It isn't cocaine." "How do you know?" "Because cocaine doesn't make 3 unrelated men collapse with the same symptoms in under 20 minutes. The resident turned. Across the emergency department, behind 2 sets of glass doors, another patient was convulsing beneath a team of nurses. Beyond him, a third man lay unconscious in Bay 7. All 3 had been brought in from different locations. All 3 wore tailored suits, and all 3 had the same pale grey residue beneath their fingernails. Claire felt the cold move through her before she understood why. This was not an overdose. It was coordinated. She reached for the phone mounted beside the medication cabinet. Before she could lift it, every light in the emergency department went out. The monitors went black. The ventilation system stopped. For one breath, the entire floor vanished into darkness. Then the red emergency lights came on. A mechanical voice announced that the hospital had entered security lockdown. Claire heard the outer doors slam shut. A second later, black SUVs appeared beyond the snow-covered glass entrance, their headlights cutting through the storm. Men in dark suits stepped out. They did not run. They moved with the quiet precision of people who already controlled the building. "Claire," one of the nurses whispered. "Who are they?" The first gun became visible when the doors opened. The second, when the man behind him turned toward the security desk. Hospital security backed away without protest. Then Dante Moretti entered Street Aurelia Hospital. Claire had never seen him in person, but Boston had spent years teaching everyone his face. He appeared in photographs beside senators, CEOs, and charity boards. Newspapers called him a shipping magnate. Federal prosecutors called him untouchable. People in neighborhoods, where the Moretti name still carried weight, called him nothing at all. He wore a black wool coat over a dark suit. Snow melted across his shoulders. His expression was calm, almost detached, but the men around him watched his smallest movement as though a raised finger might decide whether someone lived through the night. The emergency department went silent. Dante's gaze crossed the room. It did not stop on the men with guns. It did not stop on the doctors. It stopped on Claire. For one strange, suspended moment, he looked at her as though he had been searching for her long before he entered the hospital. Then his attention shifted to Trauma Bay 3. "My brother," he said. His voice was low. No anger, no panic. That made him more frightening. Claire stepped between him and the patient. "You can't come in here." Every person within earshot seemed to stop breathing. A man to Dante's right turned his head slowly toward her. He was broad-shouldered, silver-haired, and carried... "Miss," he said, "you may want to reconsider your tone." Claire did not look at him. She looked at Dante. "If that man is your brother, then you need to let us work." Dante studied her face. "What happened to him?" "We don't know yet." "That answer is unacceptable. It's the only honest one." The silver-haired man took one step forward. Dante lifted 2 fingers. The man stopped instantly. Claire watched the gesture. Small, controlled, absolute. Dante removed his coat and handed it to someone behind him. "What do you need?" "A functioning hospital." "You have one. I have armed men blocking my staff and frightening my patients. No one leaves. Then no one gets transferred. No specialists get in, and no supplies arrive." "Supplies will arrive." "From where?" "Anywhere you ask. That isn't how medicine works. It is how tonight works." Claire felt anger sharpen through her fear. "There are children upstairs, elderly patients, people waiting for surgeries. You don't get to turn a hospital into your private fortress because your family is in danger." Something changed in Dante's eyes. "Not Softness. Interest. You think my family is the only one in danger? Before Claire could answer, a nurse called her name. The patient's blood pressure had collapsed again. Claire turned away from Dante without permission. For the next 12 minutes, she forgot he was there. She forgot the guns, the lockdown, and the storm. She focused on the man dying beneath her hands. His name, she learned from one of Dante's men, was Gabriel Moretti, 34, Dante's younger brother. The two other victims were a state judge and the chief financial officer of a private hospital network. All three had attended the same charity dinner. All three had consumed champagne from the same table. Claire ordered a tropine, ventilatory support, and a blood panel that would not return quickly enough. Dr. Samir Shah arrived from the intensive care unit, his hair disordered and his reading glasses hanging crookedly from one ear. He studied the symptoms. Organophosphate? Possibly modified, Claire said. The onset is too delayed. Dr. Shah glanced toward Dante, then lowered his voice. If this is what I think it is, the antidote may not be in our formulary. Dante heard him anyway. What antidote? We don't know yet, Claire said. He stepped closer. The air around him changed. I asked a question, and I'm trying to save your brother. His gaze moved to Gabriel. For the first time, Claire saw something behind Dante's control. Fear. It appeared for less than a second, but she recognized it because she had seen it in waiting rooms, elevators, stairwells, and the eyes of people pretending they were not about to lose someone. Dante Moretti was terrified. He simply had more power than most terrified men. Claire softened her voice by 1 degree. Let us identify the poison. His eyes returned to hers. How long? I don't know. That is the second answer tonight I don't accept. Then accept this one. If you interfere, he dies. The room became very still. Dante leaned closer, close enough that she could see snow melting in the black strands of his hair. You are either exceptionally brave, he said, or you have no understanding of who I am. Claire held his gaze. I understand exactly who you are, and you're still speaking to me this way. You're standing between me and my patient. A faint pulse moved in his jaw. Then he stepped aside. Give her everything she asks for, he told the room. If she requests a helicopter, clear the roof. If she requests a laboratory, buy one. Claire turned back to Gabriel. Behind her, Dante said, and no one leaves this hospital until I know who poisoned my brother. The lockdown became real after that. Doors were sealed. Elevators were restricted. Phones lost outside service. Hospital executives gathered in private conference rooms, while Dante's men took control of the security system. The official announcement called it a hazardous materials precaution. No one believed it. Claire remained with Gabriel for nearly an hour. The poison attacked in waves. Each time his breathing stabilized, another spasm came. His temperature climbed. His pulse slowed dangerously, then accelerated without warning. Dr. Shah examined the residue under Gabriel's nails, while Claire reviewed every item recovered from the 3 victims. A cuff link, a silver pen, a receipt from the gala, a folded card, printed with the seal of the Halcyon Foundation. Claire stared at the card. Something about the paper bothered her. She lifted it closer. The bitter scent was stronger. Gloves, she said. Dr. Shah looked up. Claire sealed the card inside a specimen bag. The toxin wasn't in the champagne, it was on this. Gabriel's hands had handled the card. The judge and CFO had likely received identical copies. Contact poison control, Dr. Shah said. The external lines are blocked. Claire looked toward the glass wall. Dante stood outside, speaking quietly to the silver-haired advisor. Even separated by glass, Dante seemed to control the space around him. Claire walked out. I need the phones restored. Dante ended his conversation. Why? Because I found the probable delivery method, and I need a toxicologist. Tell me the number. I'm not giving private medical details to one of your men. You believe I intend to gossip. I believe you're not a doctor. The silver-haired man looked offended on Dante's behalf. Dante only held out a phone. It was unlocked. Use mine. Claire took it. The screen showed a secure call interface she had never seen before. She hesitated. You already restored service to your phone. I never lost it. Of course you didn't. She dialed. Dante watched her while she spoke to poison control, relayed symptoms, and described the contaminated card. A toxicologist suspected a weaponized nerve agent derived from an obsolete pesticide compound. Street Aurelia did not stock enough of the required antidote. The nearest federal cache was outside Worcester, at least an hour away in clear weather. The snow was worsening. Claire ended the call. We need pralidoxim. More than we have. Dante turned to the silver-haired man. Giancarlo. The advisor had already taken out his phone. I'll have it here. Claire looked at him. The roads are closing. Giancarlo smiled without warmth. Then we won't use the roads. 22 minutes later, a helicopter descended toward the rooftop through the snow. That was when Claire first understood the scale of Dante's power. Not because he had armed men. Not because hospital administrators lowered their voices around him. Because he could bend distance. He could make impossible medicine appear through a blizzard. The antidote arrived in a steel case carried by a man wearing a federal emergency jacket who refused to meet anyone's eyes. Claire administered the medication herself. Gabriel's heart rhythm stabilized. The judge began breathing without assistance. The third patient remained critical but alive. By 4 a.m, the emergency department had shifted from chaos into an unnatural quiet. Dante stood beside his brother's bed. He did not touch him. Claire watched from the doorway as Gabriel's fingers moved weakly across the sheet. Dante's hand lifted. He almost reached for him, then stopped. Claire recognized restraint when she saw it. You can touch him, she said. Dante did not turn. I know. He may hear you. He knows I'm here. That isn't the same thing. Dante looked at her over his shoulder. You speak as though you know my brother. I know patients. And what do patients need? Proof they haven't been abandoned. Something in his expression hardened. Gabriel has never been abandoned. Claire glanced at the men stationed outside the room. No. He's just surrounded. Dante turned fully toward her. You enjoy testing boundaries. I enjoy clarity. You mistake one for the other. Maybe. His eyes moved over her face with unsettling focus. You haven't asked to go home. The hospital is locked. You could have demanded it. Would you have let me leave? No. Then there wasn't much point. A faint shadow of approval appeared in his gaze. Before either of them could speak again, an alarm sounded from the staff corridor. Not medical. Security. Dante's men moved instantly. Giancarlo appeared at the end of the hall. One of the gala staff entered through the loading dock 20 minutes ago, he said. He was wearing hospital identification. Dante's eyes turned cold. Where is he? We lost him near radiology. Claire felt a chill that had nothing to do with the snow. He could be dressed as clinical staff. Dante looked at her uniform. From this moment forward, you do not go anywhere alone. I have patients. You will have an escort. I'm not walking through the hospital with armed guards. Yes, you are. No. Dante stepped close enough to block the corridor. This is not a negotiation. Claire lowered her voice. You cannot order me around because you're frightened. The word landed. His face did not change. But Giancarlo looked sharply between them. Dante's voice became quieter. You believe I am frightened. I believe your brother was poisoned. An assassin is inside the building, and control is the only way you know how to breathe. Silence stretched between them. Claire expected anger. Instead, Dante said, 2 guards. 1. Two. One who stays outside treatment areas. His eyes narrowed. You bargain badly. You're still listening. Dante looked toward Giancarlo. 1 guard. Outside treatment areas. Giancarlo's smile was almost imperceptible. Claire walked away before Dante could reconsider. The guard assigned to her was named Nico. He was younger than the others, perhaps 28, with dark curls and a healed scar near his temple. He followed Claire at a respectful distance as she moved between the emergency department and intensive care. At first, she resented him. Then she noticed he carried blankets for an elderly patient without being asked. Later, he distracted a frightened child by folding a surgical mask into the shape of a bird. Dante's men were not what she expected. That unsettled her more than cruelty would have. At 5:17, Claire entered the medication room alone. Nico waited outside. She scanned her badge, stepped inside, and reached for a vial. The door clicked shut behind her. A doctor stood near the sink. His back was turned. Claire recognized the white coat, but not the man wearing it. Can I help you? He turned. The identification card clipped to his pocket belonged to Dr. Evan Cole, an orthopedic surgeon Claire had worked with 2 nights earlier. The face did not. Claire's hand moved toward the emergency button. The man crossed the room before she reached it. He struck her wrist against the counter. Pain shot up her arm. The vial shattered. He covered her mouth and drove her backward into the shelves. "Where is the archive key?" he whispered. Claire struggled. His grip tightened. "What archive? You know what your father left you." For one stunned second, Claire stopped fighting. Her father, the assassin, used that second. He pulled a syringe from his pocket. Claire slammed her heel into his foot and twisted away. The needle sliced across her shoulder instead of entering her neck. She grabbed a metal tray and struck him across the face. The door burst open. Nico entered with his weapon raised. The assassin fired first. The gunshot exploded inside the small room. Nico fell against the doorframe. Claire dropped behind the counter. The assassin raised the gun toward her. Then Dante appeared. He did not shout. He moved. One hand caught the assassin's wrist. The other struck beneath the man's jaw. The gun fired into the ceiling. Dante twisted the attacker's arm until the weapon dropped. The assassin reached for a blade. Dante drove him into the wall with enough force to crack the tile. There was nothing wild in Dante's face. That was the terrifying part. He was calm. He took the blade from the man's hand, turned it, and pressed it beneath his ribs. "Who sent you?" The assassin smiled through blood. Dante pushed the blade deeper. "Who sent you?" Claire heard herself say his name. "Dante." He looked at her. The change was immediate. His attention left the man entirely. He saw the blood on Claire's shoulder. The assassin used the opening. He pulled a second weapon from his ankle. Claire saw it first. "Gun." Dante turned. The shot struck him high in the side. Nico fired from the floor. The assassin collapsed. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Dante looked down at the dark stain spreading beneath his jacket. Claire crossed the room. "Sit down." "I'm fine." "You've been shot. It missed anything important." "You don't know that. I know exactly where it went." "Sit down." Dante's eyes remained on her bleeding shoulder. "He touched you." Claire pressed gauze against his wound. "You were shot. He put a needle near your throat, and you're still bleeding." His hand closed around her wrist. "Not painfully. Possessively. What was in the syringe?" "I don't know." His gaze moved to the scratch on her shoulder. Something inside him went still. "Claire, it didn't go in. Are you certain?" "Yes." He looked at the dead assassin, then back at her. The control in his face had changed into something darker. Not fear this time. Raja. He released her wrist only when Dr. Shah entered. Dante refused a hospital room. Claire treated him in a private consultation suite, while 2 of his men guarded the door. The bullet had passed through muscle without striking bone or organ. He had been lucky. "You need stitches," Claire said. "Then stitch it. You also need imaging." "No." That wasn't a suggestion. "I am not leaving my brother. The imaging suite is 2 floors down. He stays within my sight." Claire stared at him. "Do you hear yourself?" "Constantly." She cleaned the wound. Dante did not react to the antiseptic. He sat shirtless beneath the cold examination light, one hand resting on his thigh, the other gripping the edge of the table. Scars crossed his torso, some old and pale, others sharp enough to look recent. Claire tried not to study them. She failed. Dante noticed. "Curious?" "Clinically." "Of course." She threaded the needle. "This will hurt. I've survived worse. That doesn't make this pleasant. Nothing about you has been pleasant." Claire looked up. His eyes were on her. The space between them tightened. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you have contradicted me 9 times in 3 hours." "You counted?" "I notice patterns." "So do I." "What pattern have you noticed?" "You threaten everyone except me." His expression became unreadable. Claire inserted the needle. Dante's jaw tightened slightly. "You think I haven't threatened you?" "No. I think you've tried." She closed the first stitch. "And failed?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because if you wanted to hurt me, you would have." He watched her hands. "You're very certain of that." "I'm certain you had opportunities. Perhaps I'm waiting." "For what?" Dante's gaze lifted to hers. "For you to understand what you are standing inside." Claire tied the stitch. "A hospital. A war." The word changed the room. She continued working. "Who asked about my father?" Dante did not answer. The silence told her enough. "You know, I know many things. Did you know someone would come after me?" "I knew it was possible." Claire stepped back. "You locked down this hospital because of your brother." "Yes, but you also knew I was connected." Dante's eyes hardened. "Finish the stitches. Tell me the truth. You are not in a position to demand it. I just saved your brother. And I just saved you. Those things don't cancel each other out. No, he said quietly. They do not. She waited. Dante looked toward the frosted window. Your father worked as a forensic accountant. I know what he did. You know what he told you he did. Claire felt cold spread through her. My father audited non-profit hospitals. He audited organizations used to move money for families like mine. She stared at him. Dante continued. 6 years ago, he discovered a network connecting the Halcyon Foundation to judges, hospital executives, and several criminal organizations. My father died in a car accident. No. The single word hollowed out the room. Claire's fingers went numb. Dante met her eyes. He was murdered. She stepped away from him. No. I have proof. You had no right to say that without... He knew he was being watched. Before he died, he hid the evidence. Claire shook her head. My father would have gone to the FBI. He tried. Then why was nothing investigated? Because the people he contacted were part of it. Her breathing became shallow. The red emergency light above the door pulsed against Dante's face. What does this have to do with me? Dante looked at the blood on her shoulder again. The evidence was encrypted inside a medical archive created during a research trial. Your father used your identity as part of the access key. Claire stopped breathing. What trial? You were treated for acute lymphoblastic leukemia when you were 11. She stared at him. Very few people knew that. Her father had spent years protecting her from questions, photographs, pity. How do you know that? Dante's expression did not change. I know everything that could be used to hurt you. The answer was worse than an admission. How long have you been watching me? Silence. Dante. 3 years. Claire stepped back as though he had struck her. You arranged my transfer. Yes. The room tilted. Street Aurelia had recruited her 8 months earlier with a salary increase, research opportunities, and a recommendation from an administrator she had never met. She had believed she earned it. You brought me here, to protect you, to use me. His eyes narrowed. Both can be true. Claire turned away. For the first time that night, she felt genuinely afraid of him. Not because he had guns, because he had entered her life before she knew his name. He knew her childhood illness, her employment history, her father's death, maybe more. How much? She asked. What? How much of my life do you know? Dante said nothing. Claire looked back at him. Do you know where I live? Yes. My friends? Yes. My routines? Yes. Did you have people following me? When the threat level required it. A hard laugh escaped her. The threat level. You were alive because I took precautions, and I was never asked. No. The bluntness hurt more than an excuse would have. Claire picked up the suture tray. Find another nurse. Dante stood. The movement pulled at his wound, but he ignored it. You will not leave this room angry and unprotected. I'm not discussing this with you. You are in shock. I am furious. Both. She reached the door. His hand closed around the frame above her shoulder, stopping the door before she opened it. He did not touch her. That made the nearness worse. Move. No. Claire looked up at him. Your brother is alive because I ignored every instinct telling me to stay away from your family. My brother is alive because you are exceptional. The praise sounded almost like accusation. You don't get to flatter me now. I am not flattering you. You invaded my life. Yes. You manipulated my career. Yes. You watched me without permission. Yes. Each answer was calm, unapologetic. Claire hated that part of her believed he was ashamed somewhere beneath it. You should be afraid of what I know, she said. I am. She blinked. Dante lowered his voice. Not because you can destroy me. His chaza held hers. Because someone inside this hospital has already tried to kill you twice. The anger inside Claire collided with the memory of the syringe. My father's evidence, she said. Is that what poisoned Gabriel? I believe Gabriel discovered part of Giancarlo's financial trail. Giancarlo? Dante's expression closed. Mi advisa. The silver-haired man? He has served my family for 22 years. And you think he's involved? I think someone wants me to think he is. Claire studied him. You trust him. I trust evidence. That isn't what I asked. Dante's eyes went cold again. Trust is a luxury that gets men buried. And yet you brought him into the hospital. I brought everyone close enough to watch. Claire realized then that the lockdown was not only to contain an assassin. Dante had sealed suspects inside with him. You trapped your own people here. Yes. And the patients? Collateral I intended to prevent. You say that as though intention forgives consequence. It does not. For a moment, neither spoke. Then an explosion shook the hospital. The lights failed again. Glass shattered somewhere below. Dante pulled Claire against him before she could react. His body covered hers as the ceiling tiles trembled. The room fell into darkness. Gunfire erupted in the corridor. Dante moved Claire behind the examination table and drew a pistol from the back of his waistband. "You were shot 5 minutes ago," she whispered. "I noticed." The door handle moved. Dante raised the weapon. A voice came through the wood. "Boss, it's Nico." Dante opened the door. Nico stood pale but upright, one arm bandaged. The loading dock was breached. 6 men, maybe more. Power to the south wing is down. Dante looked at Claire. "Stay with Nico." "No." His expression sharpened. "Claire, Gabriel is in the south wing. He has guards. He needs medical staff." I said no. "And I said your brother is my patient." Gunfire cracked again. Dante stepped close. For one moment, Claire thought he would physically restrain her. His hand lifted toward her face. It stopped inches from her cheek. The almost touch felt more intimate than contact. "You do not understand what it will do to me if you walk into that corridor." Claire's anger faltered. The words sounded dragged out of him against his will. "You barely know me." Dante looked at her as if that was the cruelest thing she could have said. "I know you drink coffee cold because you forget it exists. I know you call your elderly patients sir, even when they can't remember their own names. I know you sit in your car for 3 minutes after every night shift, because silence is the only part of your day that belongs entirely to you." Claire could not speak. Dante's voice dropped. "I know you stayed beside a dying woman for 6 hours after your shift ended because her daughter was trapped in Denver. I know you send half your holiday pay to a scholarship fund in your father's name." His eyes were dark and furious. "Do not tell me I barely know you." The corridor shook with another impact. Claire felt fear move through her, but not of him, of how long he had been watching, of how seen she felt, of how much that frightened her. "You know facts," she whispered. "You don't know me." Dante's hand lowered, "Then survive long enough to correct me." He turned toward the corridor. Claire followed. Dante looked back once. He knew he could not stop her without becoming exactly what she believed he was. "Stay behind me," he said. They moved through the dark hospital beneath red emergency lights. The south wing had become a maze of overturned carts, shattered glass, and frightened staff sheltering inside patient rooms. Dante's men advanced ahead of them. Claire remained close to his back, one hand gripping a medical bag, the other braced against the wall whenever distant gunfire shook the floor. At the intensive care entrance, 2 masked attackers emerged from the stairwell. Dante fired once. One dropped. Nico tackled the other into the wall. Claire flinched, but did not stop. Dante looked at her as though checking whether some part of her had broken. She held his gaze. "Move." Something almost like admiration crossed his face. Gabriel's room had been breached. One guard lay unconscious outside. Another pressed blood-soaked gauze to his arm. Inside, a man in surgical scrubs stood over Gabriel's bed with a syringe. Claire ran. The attacker turned. Dante fired, but the man pulled Gabriel upright as a shield. "Drop it," Dante said. The attacker pressed the needle against Gabriel's throat. Dante's face became perfectly still. "Your brother dies," the man said. "Unless the nurse comes with me." Claire felt Dante shift in front of her. "No," he said. The attacker smiled. "She is the key." Gabriel's eyes opened weakly. "Dante, irraspid." The syringe pressed deeper. Claire stepped around Dante. "I'll go." Dante caught her arm. "No. If he injects Gabriel, he will kill you anyway. Then stop him before he does." The attacker's gaze moved between them. "Touching," he said. The great Dante Moretti finally found something he cannot order into submission. Dante's grip tightened. Claire looked at him. "Trust me." His eyes flashed. "You have given me no reason to trust you. I saved your brother. You also walked toward a loaded gun. Then trust that I know how to keep him talking." Dante stared at her. Then, slowly, released her arm. Claire stepped forward. "What do you need from me?" "The archive key." "I don't know it." "You are it. That doesn't explain anything." The attacker's eyes shifted toward the medical workstation. Claire followed the glance. A portable drive had been inserted into the system. The attacker was trying to access Gabriel's files or hers. You need my biometric profile, Claire said. The man smiled. You understand quickly. So did my father. The smile disappeared. Claire took another step. Did you kill him? The attacker's attention fixed on her. Dante moved. He fired beneath Gabriel's arm. The attacker jerked backward. Claire lunged for the syringe. It fell. Dante reached Gabriel before he slid from the bed. For the first time, Claire saw Dante hold his brother. Not ceremonially, not carefully, desperately. Gabriel's forehead pressed against Dante's shoulder. Dante closed his eyes, only for a second. Then he looked at Claire. The intensity of his relief struck her harder than the violence. You're hurt, he said. Claire looked down. A shard of glass had cut through her sleeve. It's superficial. Dante handed Gabriel to Dr. Shah and crossed the room. He took Claire's arm. You're bleeding. So are half the people on this floor. I am not responsible for half the people on this floor. The words came out before he could restrain them. Claire looked at him. What does that mean? Dante's gaze dropped to the blood on her sleeve. It means you are leaving this hospital. Gabriel is stable. The other patients have doctors. I am a nurse, and you are the target. You can't lock me away. I can. Then I'll hate you. His eyes lifted. Something raw moved through them. That is a price I can survive. Before Claire could answer, Giancarlo entered the room surrounded by guards. His suit remained immaculate despite the attack. The helipad is secure, he said. We should move you both. Dante looked at him. Both? Giancarlo's gaze settled on Claire. The nurse is clearly valuable. There was nothing openly threatening in his tone. Claire felt threatened anyway. Dante stepped between them. Her name is Claire. Giancarlo smiled faintly. Of course. Dante watched him for a long moment. Then he said, Prepare the penthouse safe site. Claire's stomach tightened. I'm not going to your penthouse. Dante did not look at her. Yes, you are. 10 minutes later, the entire hospital went silent. Claire remembered that silence more clearly than the gunfire. She had been walking toward the private elevator when dizziness struck. The scratch from the assassin's syringe burned suddenly beneath her skin. She stopped. Dante turned. What is it? I don't know. Her knees weakened. He caught her before she hit the floor. The corridor tilted behind him. Claire touched the cut on her shoulder. It must have entered the bloodstream. Dante's face changed. The calm disappeared. Doctor. His voice tore through the floor. Claire had never heard panic sound so dangerous. Her vision blurred. People moved around them. Dr. Shah shouted instructions. Someone brought a gurney. Dante ignored it. He lifted Claire into his arms, one arm beneath her knees, the other locked around her back. His white shirt was stained with his blood and hers. Put me down, she whispered. No, you need to stay awake. The private elevator doors opened. Dante carried her through the marble lobby. Hundreds of people stood there. Doctors, nurses, patients, hospital executives, armed men. Every voice stopped. Dante Moretti, the man Boston feared, walked through them, holding a nurse as though the world had narrowed to the weight of her body. His head bent toward hers. Look at me. Claire forced her eyes open. I'm looking. Do not close them. You're giving orders again. His jaw tightened. Yes. She could barely feel her fingers. Then she... What? You're frightened. He held her closer. I am past frightened. The last thing Claire saw before the elevator closed was Giancarlo watching them. Not with concern, with satisfaction. Claire woke inside a glass-walled bedroom overlooking Boston. Snow moved beyond the windows. The city below looked distant and silent, a field of lights beneath the storm. She was in a bed too large to belong in any hospital. An IV ran into her arm. Medical monitors stood beside black marble furniture. Dante sat in a chair near the window. His coat was gone. His shirt had been replaced. His side was freshly bandaged. He was awake. Claire knew because the moment her breathing changed, his head turned. You're alive, he said. His voice sounded rough. How disappointing for your enemies. He stood. She tried to sit up. The room moved. Dante reached her before the monitor finished alarming. His hand came to her shoulder, steadying but not forcing. Slowly. Where am I? My penthouse. You kidnapped me. I relocated you while unconscious. That is kidnapping with better furniture. For the first time, she saw something close to exhaustion in his face. You were exposed to a partial dose. Dr. Shah administered the antidote before we left. How long? 11 hours. Claire looked toward the windows. The storm had passed. Gabrielle? Alive. Awake. She exhaled. Dante watched the relief cross her face. You nearly died, he said. And your first question is about my brother. He was my patient. You are no longer assigned to him. That isn't your decision. It is now. Claire looked at him. His control had returned, but something beneath it had fractured. You sat here all night. I had work. There's no computer. And I moved it. Why? Because the keys disturbed you. Claire stared at him. Dante looked away first. On the table beside him stood a cold cup of coffee. You drink yours cold too, she said. I don't forget it exists. No, you just forget to drink it. He said nothing. Claire looked around the room. 2 guards stood beyond the glass doors. She noticed a locked medical cabinet, clean clothes folded on a chair, and a framed photograph turned face down on the far table. Where is my phone? Destroyed. Why? It was compromised. My apartment? Being searched. My life? Temporarily suspended. Her anger returned. You don't get to suspend my life. Someone entered your home 3 weeks ago. Claire went still. What? They copied files from your father's old laptop. You knew? Yes. And you didn't tell me. I increased surveillance. You watched someone break into my apartment and decided surveillance was enough. They were looking for information you did not have. They could have killed me. That is why they are dead. The room became very quiet. Claire looked at him. Dante did not apologize. What did you do? What was necessary? That is not an answer. It is the only one you will receive. Claire pulled the IV from her arm. Dante's expression darkened. What are you doing? Leaving. You can barely stand. I would rather fall in the hallway than stay in a room where every answer is another reason not to trust you. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Dante stepped in front of her. Move. No. Do you solve every emotional problem by blocking a door? Only the ones trying to walk into an ambush. Claire stood. Her knees failed. Dante caught her around the waist. Their bodies collided. For one suspended second, neither moved. Claire's hands pressed against his chest. His breath touched her temple. The hand at her waist tightened. Not enough to trap her. Enough to reveal that letting go required effort. Claire looked up. Dante's eyes dropped to her mouth. The room seemed to narrow. His free hand lifted. His fingers almost touched her cheek. Then he stopped. The restraint between them became unbearable. You should let me go, she whispered. Yes. He did not. You're not. No. Her heart beat harder. This is a mistake. Almost certainly. Still, he did not move. Claire felt the danger of him in the silence. Not the weapons. Not the power. The fact that she wanted him closer, despite everything she knew. Then the bedroom door opened. Giancarlo entered. Dante released Claire instantly. The loss of warmth felt like exposure. Giancarlo's eyes took in the room. Forgive me. You entered without permission, Dante said. A situation has developed. Dante's voice cooled. What situation? Gabriel disappeared during transport. Claire forgot everything else. What? Giancarlo folded his hands. The ambulance was intercepted before reaching the secondary safe facility. 2 guards are dead. Dr. Shah is missing. Dante's face became stone. Who knew the route? 6 people. Name them. You. Me. Nico. The driver. The security chief. And Claire, Giancarlo said. The accusation entered the room softly. Claire stared at him. I was unconscious. Yet the route was discussed in your presence. I didn't hear it. Giancarlo looked sympathetic. Perhaps not consciously. Dante stepped between them. Leave. Giancarlo's brows lifted. Don't you? Now. The older man's chaser lingered on Claire. Then he inclined his head and left. Claire looked at Dante. He thinks I betrayed you. He thinks what I want him to think. You expected this. I expected an attempt to isolate Gabriel, and you used the transport as bait. Yes. Were the guards aware? Yes. Are they dead? No. The bodies were staged. Claire stared at him. What about Dr. Shah? Safe. And Gabriel? Dante looked toward the windows. Missing. The victory drained from his face. The interception was real, Claire said. Yes. You gambled with your brother. I gambled on knowing my enemy. And you were wrong. His gaze hardened. Yes. Claire saw what the admission cost him. She sat on the edge of the bed. Giancarlo? Possibly. You've trusted him for 22 years. I told you. I trust evidence. You keep saying that as if repeating it makes betrayal hurt less. Dante's eyes flashed. You know nothing about betrayal. My father was murdered by people he trusted. And you learned that yesterday. You think pain is more legitimate because you carried it longer. The words struck. Dante turned away. Claire watched his shoulders become still. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. Giancarlo raised Gabriel after our mother died. Claire said nothing. He taught him to drive. He attended every school event I could not. He was the closest thing Gabriel had to a father. And to you? Dante looked at her over his shoulder. I did not require one. The answer revealed more than he intended. Claire lowered her voice. Everyone requires someone. I required obedience. That isn't the same thing. It kept people alive. Did it? The question remained between them. Dante looked down at the city. Then his phone rang. He answered. A distorted voice filled the room. We have your brother. Dante's face did not change. Claire moved closer. The caller continued. Bring Claire Bennett to St. Michael's Church at midnight. No guards, no weapons. The archive opens, or Gabriel dies. The line went silent. Dante lowered the phone. Claire already knew what he would say. No. Hildy. No. You cannot decide that. I can decide whether to hand you to men who intend to cut information out of you. Then we find another way. There is no we. Claire stood. There has been a we since your men locked me inside that hospital. Dante turned. You are not going. You watched me for 3 years because I'm connected to this. You manipulated my career because I'm connected to this. My father died because of this. Her voice shook, but she did not lower it. You don't get to use my life as evidence, and then exclude me when it becomes dangerous. Dante crossed the room. Dangerous. His control cracked. You were poisoned in my arms. Claire stopped. His voice dropped to a brutal whisper. I carried you through a hospital believing you would stop breathing before the elevator opened. The memory entered the room with them. Dante looked at her as though he still felt her weight. You think I will place you willingly into their hands? I think you'll do what you must for your brother. No. The answer came too quickly. Claire stared at him. Dante realized what he had admitted. Don't you? No. You would choose me? His face became unreadable. I will choose the plan that saves you both. That isn't what I asked. He looked away. Claire stepped closer. You're afraid to answer because then this becomes real. His eyes returned to hers. This has been real since you stood between me and Gabriel's bed. The words stripped away the last safe distance between them. Claire's breath caught. Dante lifted his hand. This time, his fingertips touched her cheek. The contact was so careful, it felt almost painful. I have denied myself many things, he said. You are the first that has made denial feel like cowardice. Claire closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, he was closer. You don't own me. I know. You don't control me. I am learning. You lied to me. Yes. You used me. Yes. His thumb moved once along her cheekbone. And I would destroy every alliance I have built before letting them take you. That isn't an apology. No. What is it? The truth. Claire should have stepped away. Instead, she whispered, Then give me all of it. Dante's hand lowered. He crossed to the face-down photograph and turned it over. It showed a younger Dante standing beside Claire's father outside a courthouse. Claire moved toward it. My father knew you. He saved my life. Dante's voice was flat, but the memory beneath it was not. Years ago, I was accused of ordering the murder of a federal witness. Your father discovered the financial records proving someone else arranged it. Giancarlo? I did not know then. Dante looked at the photograph. Your father came to me because every official channel had been compromised. He gave me enough evidence to clear my name, then told me he had found something larger. The network. Yes. Why didn't you protect him? The question cut deeper than Claire intended. Dante did not defend himself. I tried. What happened? He refused to disappear. He believed hiding would place you in greater danger. Claire's eyes burned. That sounds like him. The night he died, he called me. Dante's voice became rougher. He asked me to promise that if anything happened, I would keep you out of this world. Claire looked around the penthouse. You failed. Yes. No excuse. No evasion. Dante met her eyes. I also promised him I would find who killed him. And you turned me into bait. Yes. The honesty hurt. Claire looked at the photograph. I don't know whether to hate you. You should. That would be easier for you. Yes. She faced him. And if I don't? Dante's expression changed. Then Nico entered through the outer doors. "We found Gabriel." Dante turned instantly. "Where?" "St. Michael's. Thermal imaging shows at least 12 armed men inside, more in the rectory." "The exchange is a trap," Claire said. Nico nodded. "There's something else. We traced hospital access logs from the first attack." He placed a tablet on the table. A security image showed Giancarlo entering the medication wing 20 minutes before the assassin attacked Claire. Dante studied it. "Could be altered." "There's more." The next image showed Giancarlo meeting the hospital CEO in an underground parking structure 6 weeks earlier. Then another. Giancarlo beside the CFO who had been poisoned. Claire looked at Dante. His face was completely still. Nico said, "We also recovered a recorded call from Gabriel's phone. He confronted Giancarlo about the Halcyon accounts yesterday." Dante listened. Gabriel's voice played first. "You used our hospitals to move money for Vescari's people." Giancarlo answered calmly. "You are confused. I saw the transfers. You saw what I allowed you to see." The recording ended with Gabriel saying he would tell Dante. Silence filled the penthouse. Dante picked up his coat. "We go at 11. Claire stepped in front of him. "So do I." "No. The archive needs my biometric profile. We will simulate it. You don't know whether that works." "No." "Then stop pretending you can control every outcome." His eyes sharpened. "I can control whether you enter that church." Claire lifted her chin. "Only by physically imprisoning me." Dante looked at Nico. "Leave us." Nico withdrew. Dante waited until the doors closed. Then he said, "You believe I won't? I believe you could. You are wrong." "Then do it." He stared at her. Claire's heart hammered. "Lock the door," she said. "Post guards. Tie me to the bed if that's what you think protection means." His jaw tightened. "But understand what happens next. You become the man who says my safety matters more than my choice." Dante's voice dropped. "It does. To you." "Yes. Not to me." The words struck him. Claire stepped closer. "My father died because powerful men decided what risks he was allowed to take. I will not spend the rest of my life being managed by another one." Dante's expression was raw with conflict. "You could die. So could Gabriel. I can survive losing him." Claire looked into his eyes. "No, you can't." He said nothing. "And you cannot survive becoming the reason I stopped trusting you." The silence stretched. At last, Dante reached into his coat and removed a compact weapon. He placed it on the table. "You stay beside me." Claire exhaled. "You follow every instruction." "I'll consider reasonable ones." His gaze darkened. "Claire." She almost smiled. "Fine." He stepped closer. "If anything changes, I remove you." "You try." A dangerous quiet entered his face. Then, unexpectedly, he touched his forehead to hers. "No kiss." No claim. Only one exhausted second of closeness. "When this ends," he whispered, "you may hate me freely." Claire's hand rose to the front of his coat. "And if I don't?" Dante closed his eyes. "Then I will have no defense left." St. Michael's Church stood near the harbor, abandoned between warehouses and old brick factories. Fog moved in from the water. Black SUVs stopped 2 blocks away. Dante entered through the front alone with Claire beside him. He wore no visible weapon. Claire wore a black coat over borrowed clothes, her father's old medical identification card hidden inside the lining. The church was lit by hundreds of candles. Gabriel sat tied to a chair before the altar, bruised but conscious. Giancarlo stood beside him. 12 armed men occupied the aisles. The sight of Giancarlo seemed to age Dante without changing his face. "You came," Giancarlo said. Dante's voice was calm. "You poisoned my brother. I educated him poorly. He became curious." Gabriel strained against the restraints. "I'm sorry." Dante looked at him. "You have nothing to apologize for." Giancarlo smiled. "There it is, the tenderness you hide so carefully." His gaze moved to Claire. "And now, a second weakness." Dante shifted slightly in front of her. Giancarlo noticed. "Extraordinary," he said. 3 years ago she was a name in a file. Now you would burn Boston to keep her warm." Claire felt Dante's hand brush the back of hers. A warning, or reassurance. "Release Gabriel," Dante said. "Open the archive. You killed Daniel Bennett." Giancarlo's expression did not change. He was an accountant who confused integrity with immortality. Claire's grief sharpened into coldness. "You ran his car off the road." "No. I instructed someone else to do it. Dante took one step forward. Several weapons lifted. Giancarlo raised a hand. Controlled, Dante, always controlled. Even now, his smile faded. I gave your family 22 years. I protected your father's empire while you were still learning how to wear a suit. Then you inherited everything because of blood. You wanted the chair. I wanted what I built. You built nothing. For the first time, anger moved through Giancarlo's face. I built the alliances that made people fear you. No, Dante said. You built a system that fed on frightened people and called it loyalty. Giancarlo looked at Claire. Your influence, I assume. Claire met his gaze. He already knew what you were. He just didn't want to know who. The words landed. Giancarlo's eyes turned cold. He gestured toward a laptop placed on the altar. Enough. The archive. Claire walked forward. Dante caught her wrist. She looked at him. His grip loosened. Not releasing. Asking. Claire whispered, "Trust me." Then she crossed the remaining distance. The computer displayed an old medical research portal. Her childhood hospital. Her patient number. Claire placed her palm against a scanner. The system requested a secondary phrase. She stared at the screen. A memory surfaced. Her father sitting beside her hospital bed when she was 11, pretending not to be afraid. Whenever she asked if she would survive, he answered with the same sentence. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is deciding what fear does not get to choose. Claire typed the sentence. The archive opened. Hundreds of files appeared. Bank transfers. Recorded conversations. Names. Giancarlo stepped closer. At last, Claire looked at Dante. He understood. She pressed the upload command. Every file began transmitting to dozens of addresses. Giancarlo's face changed. What did you do? My father didn't hide evidence so you could own it. He struck Claire across the face. Dante moved. The church erupted. Gunfire shattered candles and stained glass. Dante reached Claire first, pulling her behind a stone column as his men entered through the side doors. Nicocut Gabriel free. Giancarlo fled toward the rectory. Claire saw the laptop screen. The upload had stopped at 73%. The connection is down. Dante fired toward the choir loft. Leave it. It hasn't finished. Claire, if the files don't send, this starts again. Another bullet struck the column. Dante shielded her with his body. His mouth was near her ear. I will not lose you for a computer. You won't. You cannot promise that. No. But I can promise I won't hide while other people die for this. Dante looked at her. Then he handed her a small device from inside his coat. A satellite relay. You brought this? I know patterns. Despite everything, Claire almost laughed. She connected it to the laptop. The upload resumed. 80%. Across the church, Gabriel shouted. Giancarlo had Nico at gunpoint near the altar. Stop the upload, Giancarlo yelled. Claire kept her hand on the device. Dante stepped into the open. Let them go. Giancarlo pressed the gun against Nico's head. You always choose the wrong people. Dante's voice remained calm. No. I simply stopped choosing you. 90%. Giancarlo fired. Dante moved before the sound finished. He struck Nico aside. The bullet hit Dante beneath the shoulder. Claire screamed his name. Dante fell to one knee. Giancarlo crossed the aisle and aimed at him again. Claire looked at the upload. 96%. Dante looked at her. Not at the gun. At her. Run, he said. Claire saw the fear in his eyes. Not for himself. Never for himself. She removed the relay. The upload froze. Giancarlo smiled. Bring it to me. Claire held the device. 96%. 4% missing. Perhaps the names that mattered most. She walked toward him. Dante tried to stand. Giancarlo aimed at his chest. Stay down. Claire stopped within reach. Give me the relay. She looked at Dante. Blood spread across his shirt. His control was gone now. Claire. No. She tossed the relay toward Giancarlo. His eyes followed it. Dante fired from the floor. The bullet struck Giancarlo's weapon from his hand. Nico lunged. Gabriel tackled Giancarlo against the altar. Claire caught the relay before it hit the stone floor. She ran back to the laptop. 97. 98. Giancarlo broke free and seized a fallen gun. He aimed at Claire. Dante rose between them. The shot cracked through the church. Dante's body jerked. He remained standing. He fired once. Giancarlo fell beneath the burning candles. The upload reached 100%. Then Dante collapsed. Claire reached him before he struck the floor. His blood covered her hands. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Dante looked up at her. His breathing was shallow. "Is it done?" "The file sent." "Good." She pressed both hands against the wound. "You're not allowed to die." A faint, exhausted smile touched his mouth. "You sound like me. I am nothing like you." "No." His eyes softened. "You are better." Sirens approached beyond the harbor. Federal agents. Police. Ambulance. The evidence had gone out. There would be no burying it now. Claire bent over Dante. "Stay with me." His hand lifted weakly and touched her cheek. "You asked for all the truth. Tell me later. I loved you before I understood what love was becoming." Claire's vision blurred. "Don't you? I thought obsession meant knowing where you were." His thumb moved against her skin. "It was not. It was discovering that the world remained full of power and still feeling powerless whenever you were in pain." "Stop talking. I need you to know. You can tell me when you wake up." His eyes began to close. Claire shook him. "Don't you?" His hand slipped from her face. The church filled with rushing footsteps. Claire stayed over him as paramedics surrounded them. She did not move until they lifted him onto a stretcher. She held his hand all the way to the hospital. 3 days later, Boston woke to a different city. The Halcyon files exposed a network of bribery, medical fraud, money laundering, witness intimidation, and political corruption stretching across 11 states. The hospital CEO was arrested. 2 federal agents disappeared before warrants could be served. 3 judges resigned. The newspapers printed Dante Moretti's name beside words they had never used before. Witness, informant, victim. They did not call him innocent. Claire knew better than to ask for simple words. Dante had done terrible things. He had also dismantled the empire that allowed worse men to hide behind him. Gabriel recovered in a secured hospital wing. Nico survived. Dr. Shah gave interviews no one had authorized and became famous for insulting reporters who asked foolish questions. Dante remained unconscious for 47 hours. Claire sat beside him for 46. On the second night, snow began falling again. She watched it gather against the windows. The room was quiet, except for the monitor. Dante looked different without his suits, his men, and the constant architecture of control around him. Younger, more alone. Claire held his hand beneath the blanket. "You were right about one thing," she said softly. He did not respond. "I do sit in my car after night shifts." The monitor continued its steady rhythm, "but not because silence belongs to me." She looked at him. "It is because sometimes I'm afraid to go home to an empty apartment." Her throat tightened. "You knew everything except that." Dante's fingers moved weakly around hers. Claire froze. His eyes opened. Dark. Exhausted. Alive. "You should have told me," he whispered. A laugh broke through her tears. "You were unconscious. I would have made an exception." She leaned closer. "You were shot twice. I noticed. You nearly died. I was told. You are impossible. So are you." He looked at their joined hands, then at her. "Do you hate me?" Claire sat back. He tried. "And? You make it difficult." His eyes closed briefly. "That is not an answer. You don't deserve an easy one." "No." "You lied to me." "Yes." "You watched me." "Yes." "You manipulated my career." "Yes." "You ordered men to invade my apartment. To secure it. That is not better." "No." Claire studied him. "You still think protection gives you the right to decide for me." Dante was silent. Then he said, "I am trying to understand that it does not." "Trying?" "It is a violent adjustment." Despite herself, Claire smiled. Dante watched the expression as though it were something rare. "What happens now?" she asked. "The federal government will attempt to use the files. And you?" "I will answer for what is mine." Claire's smile faded. "You could go to prison." "Yes." "For how long?" "I don't know." Fear moved through her. Dante saw it. His hand tightened around hers. "I will not run. I didn't ask you to." "No. But you are wondering whether I will disappear." Claire looked away. He knew her too well. Dante's voice softened. "I have spent most of my life believing love was another word for leverage." She met his eyes. "You don't have to call it love." "I do." The certainty in his voice silenced her. "I love you," he said. "Not because you saved Gabriel. Not because of your father. Not because you are the key to anything." His chaser held hers. I love you because you walked into every room I controlled and reminded me that power is not the same as being right. Claire's eyes burned again. You are still very often wrong. I expect detailed correction. You may regret that. I regret many things. His thumb brushed the back of her hand. You will not be one of them. Claire leaned closer. Dante's eyes dropped to her mouth. He did not move. For the first time since she met him, he waited without trying to control the outcome. Claire closed the distance. The kiss was quiet. No violence. No possession. Only restrained hunger finally allowed to become tenderness. Dante's hand rose to the back of her neck, but he did not pull her closer until she leaned into him. When they separated, his forehead rested against hers. You are supposed to be recovering, she whispered. I am. That is not what recovery looks like. It is the first part I have enjoyed. 6 months later, Street Aurelia Hospital reopened under federal oversight. The marble lobby had been repaired. The bullet holes were gone. The emergency department had new security doors, new funding, and an ethics board Claire personally distrusted on principle. She returned to work under one condition. No Moretti guards inside patient care areas. Dante negotiated for 2. Claire allowed one in the lobby. Nico spent most of his shifts bringing coffee to nurses and pretending he was not adored by the pediatric floor. Gabriel founded a medical transparency non-profit, using assets seized from the Halcyon network. Dr. Shah threatened to resign from its board twice a week. Dante accepted a federal agreement that required testimony, forfeiture of several companies, and permanent withdrawal from the operations that had built the Moretti empire. He did not walk away clean. Claire would not have loved him if he had pretended he could. He spent months dismantling what remained, closing accounts, releasing people from debts disguised as loyalty, and turning legitimate businesses over to independent boards. Some men called it weakness. Those men rarely said it twice. One snowy evening, Claire finished a 14-hour shift and walked toward the glass entrance. The lobby quieted. Not completely, but enough. Dante stood near the doors in a black coat. No army, no convoy visible outside, only one car parked beneath the falling snow. Claire stopped in front of him. You're early. You are late. I work in an emergency department. You say that as though emergencies should be unpredictable. They generally are. Dante took her bag. She let him. That had taken 4 months. Outside, snow drifted across the street. He opened the car door. Claire looked at him. What? You are staring. I'm noticing a pattern. His mouth almost curved. What pattern? 6 months ago, you carried me out of this hospital while everyone watched. You were unconscious. And now? Now I know better than to attempt it without permission. Claire stepped closer. Progress. Painful progress. She slid her hand into his coat. Dante's eyes darkened. Claire. Yes? You are doing that deliberately. Doing what? Testing restraint. She rose onto her toes and kissed him beneath the hospital lights. Behind the glass, half the night staff pretended not to watch. Dante's hand settled at her waist. Careful. Possessive. Controlled only because she had taught him that devotion was not proven by closing a fist. It was proven by opening one. When the kiss ended, Claire looked toward the quiet street. Where are we going? The harbor. Why? You said you missed the ocean. I said that once. 4 months ago. Of course you remember. I remember everything you give me, willingly. The distinction mattered. Claire looked up at him. Snow gathered in his dark hair. The most feared man on the East Coast had once believed love meant knowing every place she could be found. Now he stood beside her and waited for her to choose where they would go next. Claire took his hand. Then let's go home first. Dante opened the door. Your apartment or mine? Auch. He went still. Claire smiled and got into the car. For once, Dante Moretti had no answer. Then he followed her inside, closed the door against the snow, and told the driver to take them home. The hospital lights disappeared behind them. Boston opened ahead, cold, glittering, dangerous, and no longer lonely. And in the back seat of a black car moving through the snow, Claire rested her head against the shoulder of a man who had once tried to control every threat in her life. Dante took her hand and held it gently, not because she belonged to him, because she had chosen to stay. And for the first time in his life, being chosen was more powerful than being feared.